My 4-year-old daughter came home from school last month and told my husband and I that she had learned about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at school that day with her teacher. Her teacher had read her class a book about his life. And Naya, my daughter, had 3 takeaways from that book. And they were, one, that Dr. Martin Luther King preached in a church with really pretty stained glass windows. 2, that when he did preach, he used very, very, very big words. And 3, that he had a dream for our world, that everyone would be friends and hold hands. So this was a very watered-down version of an extremely powerful and at times heart-wrenching story about Dr. Martin Luther King. But it is appropriate for a class of 4-year-old students. And in hearing her talk about it, it reminded me of when I was about 9 or 10 during Black History Month, when my father sat me down and had me watch a documentary called Eyes on the Prize about the Civil Rights Movement. And I remember watching this documentary, which is extremely graphic and telling and really a great depiction of that era. And I remember as a young girl sitting down watching that documentary and feeling all at once, one, tremendous awe and exhilaration about the leaders in the civil rights movement, and also the people who worked so diligently alongside Dr. Martin Luther King, and the courage and the drive and determination and sacrifice. And then at the same time, being really disturbed by the images that I would see on the television of bodies hanging from trees and women and children being hosed down and men being beaten. And even though it was difficult at times for me to see that, I took from that experience 2 really great lessons for me in terms of social change. And one was that change, true and effective change, is both beautiful and ugly at the same time. And 2, that as a leader trying to effect change, Dr. Martin Luther King had to expect opposition that at times was extremely hurtful and violent. This became very crucial for me when about 4 years ago I started a nonprofit organization called Generation Hope right here in DC. Our sole focus is on teen parents and college. We help to make sure that teen parents walk across the graduation stage. And it was a fitting organization for me to start because when I was a senior in high school, I found out that I was pregnant. I came from a 2-parent middle-class home. I was an honor roll student. I was college-bound. I had already received acceptance letters into several schools. And my family and I were completely devastated by a pregnancy. I heard the same message that many young women hear in that situation, and that is, your life is over, you will be a failure, and college is definitely not an option for you anymore. I decided that I had this little life growing inside of me, and now more than ever, it was important for me to get a college degree. So I pressed on. I barely graduated from high school, not because of academics, but because of absences. I had so many absences and had issues getting to school. I also left my parents' home, which caused other problems for me. I was with my daughter's father, who was dealing drugs at the time. We had periods of homelessness where we would sleep on people's floors and in the car in the high school parking lot. We didn't have food to eat. Nothing about my life said college, which was, as I said, very devastating for my family, since at this time, my father was a college administrator at Grambling State University. My mother was getting her MFA from Old Dominion University, and my sister was getting her graduate degree in architecture from Yale. So you can imagine how everyone was taking this. I did, however, go on to step foot on a college campus shortly thereafter. My daughter was a little under 3 months old when I started as a full-time freshman at the College of William and Mary. And I remember standing on campus that first day and feeling like I didn't belong, like I shouldn't be there. I didn't know where I was going to get my college tuition from, the money for my college tuition from. I didn't know where I was going to get book money from. I didn't know sometimes where the next meal was going to come from, but I did know one thing, and that's that I wanted to be a college graduate. I ended up leaving my daughter's father the summer of my freshman year. I moved on campus into a family housing apartment that was really intended for adjunct professors and assistant professors. And I graduated in 4 years, just like any other college student. In fact, I graduated with high honors, and my little one, Narissa, held on to my graduation robe as I walked across the stage. Thank you. Thank you. I ended up moving up here to the DC area, and about 6 months after graduation, started on my master's degree at George Mason University in public policy. And I was working here in the DC metro area and started out in private industry, soon made the shift over to the nonprofit world. And I knew at that time that I wanted to start a nonprofit organization for teen parents. And I wanted to fill a void, a gap, in terms of the support for teen parents. And it became very clear that that gap was in education. And it primarily around the glaring gap around college completion. I looked at my own life and I saw the transformative effect that a college degree had had on my life. The things I was able to provide for myself and my daughter, I would never have been able to provide without a college degree. And I wanted that for other teen parents. So I started Generation Hope. We identified the two biggest obstacles for teen parents getting their college degree. That's one, lack of financial support, and two, lack of emotional support. Our program builds those supports back in. We do that by each of the scholars in our program receives up to $2,400 per year in tuition support. And each of them is matched with an individual in the community who provides one-on-one mentoring. And those supports stay with them until they walk across that graduation stage. And on our first day of offering the program to the community, we were very fortunate because of the uniqueness of our program to catch the eye of the Washington Post. We had a wonderful reporter from the Post, Jenna Johnson, come out and start just observing our program. And she was there when our first class of scholars was enrolled, and she followed us for about 4 months. She talked to our staff, she met our scholars, she really got to know the program. In fact, when she wrote her story, it was on one of our scholars, Emerita, who at the time was working 3 jobs, going to school at Northern Virginia Community College, raising her 3-year-old son, and she was the primary breadwinner in her family of 8. And so it was a great way to show the hard work and the diligence and determination that a young parent goes through to get their college degree. The article came out right before the holidays, and I remember bracing myself and telling the staff and volunteers of our organization to do the same, because while I knew we would have wonderful, positive support from the community, I also knew that we would face some negative comments and backlash as well. And sure enough, we had wonderful support from the community. Some donations came in, and we received emails and calls from people who were excited about what we were doing. And then at the same time, there were comments that came in. Things like, she should have kept her legs closed, or I don't want my tax dollars going to this population, or this is a lost cause, teen parents can't do anything. And it really boils down to a shaming of teen parents that we as a society like to do. And it's in shaming teen parents, we're exacerbating the negative stereotypes that really hold not just teen parents back, but our entire society back from making advances in issues that we care about, like homelessness and poverty and hunger. There is a study that the United Nations did in 2013 on adolescent pregnancy on a global scale. One of the most fascinating things that came out of the study is that teen pregnancy is rooted in powerlessness. It's not the result of a young woman making a deliberate choice to become pregnant, but rather the lack of choices that she has in the first place. And so you might be thinking, well, how does that translate into a pregnancy? Things like sex trafficking and rape and molestation and forced marriage and sexual coercion. And so then you may think, well, that happens over there in other countries, not here in the United States and not here in DC. The first application that we opened for our program, we were so excited. We had spent a year laying the foundation of Generation Hope, and now it was time for us to meet the individuals that were going to benefit from our services. And the first application we opened was from a young woman who became pregnant at 12 years old. And so I would encourage you to think about this being an issue right here in our community, in our country, happening every day. And when I look at our scholar stories, they are riddled with powerlessness. We have scholars in our program who have lived half their lives in foster care because they've had a parent incarcerated and another parent doing drugs in their home. And they were taken out of that home and then placed in foster homes that weren't that much better. Some in foster homes where they didn't even speak English. We have other scholars in our program who were victims of domestic violence. We have a scholar in our program who, when she was 9 months pregnant, was beaten by the child's father. We have another scholar in our program who became an orphan before she even graduated from high school. Teen pregnancy is rooted in powerlessness. Every day in the United States, 2,000 young women become pregnant, every single day. Here in DC, we have the nation's highest teen pregnancy rate. Homeless youth in the district, half of homeless youth in the district are young parents under the age of 24 living on the streets with their children. Why is that? One of the biggest reasons is a lack of education, which makes sense because less than half of teen mothers get a high school diploma, and less than 2% get a college degree before age 30. So this is the ugly side of change. This is the disturbing, uncomfortable side of change, but there is a very beautiful side. In our program, we have some of the most ambitious, driven students that you will ever meet. They are pursuing college degrees at 2- and 4-year universities across the DC metro area. They're working on degrees in chemistry and early education. They're doing wonderful things. We have scholars in our program who have earned perfect 4.0s at their institutions. They're on the dean's list. We have a scholar this year who's the Student Government Association president at Trinity Washington University. 100% of our graduates are employed in their chosen career field. One is a teacher at a private school, another is a professional at the Department of Homeland Security. All of this in the face of being a teen mom. 40% of our scholars last year faced housing instability, meaning that they did not know if their housing was going to continue or they were kicked out of their housing situation. And even in spite of that, we had a 0 college dropout rate in our program. Our program is not only open to teen mothers, but also to teen fathers. And for the first time next year, we will support a family, a teen father and a teen mother who are married, both working towards their college degree at the Northern Virginia Community College. We are seeing true change. It costs our organization $6,000 each year to provide the support that is needed to help a teen parent walk across the college graduation stage. That includes mentoring, it includes financial support, it includes just this network of cheerleaders. We call ourselves a family, $6,000 a year. Statistics say that when they earn that college degree, they will earn $1 million more over the course of their lifetime than their counterparts who only have a high school diploma. That is a beautiful return on investment. I didn't come here today to make you feel comfortable about teen pregnancy. What I came here today to do was to encourage us to stop shaming teen parents. It's ineffective. It's not a part of the solution. I want us to become a part of the solution. I want us all to do something. Dr. Martin Luther King, one of my very favorite quotes of his, is darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And my prayer today is that you will leave here and go out into the world and continue to spread the light. Thank you very much.